Sex was always meant to be interesting and exciting. But in our modern world, with marketing, with the internet, with everything else, sex has become nothing but an adrenaline rush, where people are just looking for more and more and more of this rush, and they end up less and less and less satisfied because they're trying to make sex do something that it can't do, that it was never intended to do, and it would never be able to do. And so if we want to have power in our life and satisfaction, we've got to figure out how to live in alignment with the natural laws of sex instead of just using it as this total adrenaline rush. What happens in this experience is, during a sex experience, there's these chemicals of adrenaline and serotonin and dopamine and all this chemical reaction within us. I talked about these chemicals in the other video. The connection that happens, the bonding that happens through the oxytocin that we experience. So it's this incredible chemical experience, but what we're doing with sex is we're relying on the adrenals, very much like food. Right? There's a lot of people that have a food issue where they're using food to try and fix themselves. They're trying to get from food what food can't give. Right? Food's good to nourish us, it's good to comfort us at certain times, but it can't fix us. In our modern world, what's happened is when caveman went out and saw a cave woman there bathing at the river, and it was this incredibly exciting, amazing thing, he experienced this overwhelming adrenaline and this drive and this interest in connecting. And then as the relationship grew, that sort of faded down a little bit, and the oxytocin became the bonding chemical that kept them together. But what we've done with the modern technology, with the internet, is we've allowed people to get addicted to those initial moments of a relationship, to that intensity that happens when a relationship starts, and then as soon as that fades away, we go for the next one, we go for the next one, we go for the next one, and we're trying to make sex do what it was never intended to do. So if we want to have power within us, we've got to learn to temper this, to take this power and channel it in ways that really help us to be in alignment with the natural laws of sex. Now, for the last, probably 6 years at this point, I've run a nonprofit on the internet that helps people dealing with pornography addiction. So I've gotten to see lots of people that have used sex in a dysfunctional way. And this is the crazy part. We think it's going to satisfy us. We think with more and more and more, we're going to become more fulfilled. What ultimately happens is that chemically we become more depleted, and emotionally we become more distant, and we become numb, and we become less satisfied. And then what happens is when we develop in the virtual world, we develop these appetites, right? You can find anything you want on the internet, and we can develop these intense appetites. And then what happens is those appetites online, the virtual doesn't satisfy us anymore. And so we're left in this place of needing something to fix us, and we try to go find it in the real world. But the only way we can sustain that kind of intensity in the real world is to have dangerous sex or to have lots of brand new sex, because it's that initial part of the relationship that we get hooked on. And so what this ends up causing is that ultimately we end up alone, because it's not this nurturing bonding experience. It's not this thing that we're getting what nature intended for us to get, the connection, and we end up depleted. So just like in the food video, right? I talked about this conversation of getting present within your body and listening, paying a lot of attention to your own experience within sex, because your body has a truth detector in it. Right? We can tell when someone's being honest with us. We can tell when someone's not being honest with us. We intuitively know from the standpoint of if food serves us or if it doesn't serve us. Right? When I had some pico pollo, and I knew instantly that food did not serve me. Right? We have this truth detector within us. And if you start to pay attention to it, step back a little bit from trying to get this adrenaline that's going to fix everything, and step back and pay attention to what's going on within you when you're having any type of sexual experience. Pay attention beforehand, pay attention during the experience, pay attention afterwards, and see ultimately if it leaves you in this fulfilled, nurtured place. And if it leaves you in a place that's empty and that's hollow and that doesn't serve you and doesn't feel good, that's your body telling you, that's your soul and your spirit telling you, hey, look, this doesn't serve. And a lot of this comes down to, I believe that when we're in alignment with the natural laws of sex, this expression becomes something that uplifts the other person. The Chinese knew this in some of the ancient Chinese writings about sex, that sex has the capacity to create health and vitality and joy and connection, but only when we use it in alignment with those natural laws. And if we use it out, we get depleted and diseased and distant and alone and numb and dissatisfied. So I'm going to invite you to experience this for yourself. I'm not going to tell you how to live your sex life. Let life teach you. But in order to do that, you have to start to pay attention. Get really present to what shows up inside you. And if it leaves you feeling empty and hollow, listen to that. Because ultimately, for you to have the power that we're talking about, the power to create, a lot of this comes down to, why do we want to create? Because it gives us satisfaction, and it gives us joy, and it gives us purpose, and it makes our life feel meaningful. And so part of this is the ultimate satisfaction of a sexual union that brings us joy. And so in order to get to that place, we need to be in alignment with these natural laws. My invitation for you is, start paying attention to that and experience for yourself the power that you can start to develop within. Now, look, just to be clear, I'm not suggesting that sex should be boring or uninteresting, or that we should have a dissatisfied sex life, that it can't be intense and fun and amazing. What I'm suggesting is that the intensity increases as our skill level increases, and that connection increases as we learn to align ourselves, and we start to use this sexual power in a way that replenishes us and rejuvenates us, and that we use it in alignment with these powers. I had ¿Estamos listos? Let's have some fun. So I had this guy that I knew, and we were at an event together, and he was a founder of a major restaurant. I may have talked about this on another video. You know how it goes when you make a whole bunch of videos. But it was a really interesting lesson for me, because he was someone who had access to all kinds of resources worth well over $100 million. And he sat and everyone kind of sat around and sort of told stories about, the sex that they'd had. And this guy had more stories than anybody I'd ever heard. And we had this meeting, and at the end of this experience, at the end of this meeting, this guy, he gets kind of quiet, and he turns to me and he says, I've been dissatisfied with sex my whole life. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like, this guy had experienced all kinds of things sexually. And yet at the age of 78, he was in this place of, he spent his life being dissatisfied. My point in bringing this up is to take a look at your own life and see how you can find greater satisfaction in this area, because I think it's one of the most amazing experiences that we can have. And I know for myself, when I've been out of alignment, it's empty and hollow. When I've been in alignment, it's the most amazing experience that I've ever had. Often in a committed relationship, right? We talk kind of about the extreme elements of sort of the free sex, that we have this idea that it's all free and there's no consequences, and yet when we experience it, we realize that there are. And in a committed relationship, when one of the partners is there just for sex and using the other person for sex, there's a disconnect that happens as well, because the other person intuitively feels that they're not being honored. And ultimately, as a human being, we want to be honored, we want to be loved, we want to be seen, we want to be known, we want to be understood. And so as we engage in this dance of life, this incredible experience, and we treat others with that same level of commitment and respect and kindness and engagement that we want, we can have that satisfaction that we're looking for, and that something within us says, I can get satisfied in this area. But it's not through the extreme measures, it's by aligning it and bringing it together and learning to channel it in ways that get us that satisfaction that we're looking for. If this is something in your life that you might need some help aligning, if you're experiencing the symptoms of exhaustion and being out of control, being driven by your sex drive, I've created a little cheat guide here for you that teaches you how to align your life with the natural laws of sex so that you can experience greater financial abundance and more connected relationships and the freedom to live your purpose. All you got to do is click on the button on this page and it will take you to another page where you can get access to this guide and help you start to live in alignment with the 7 irrefutable laws of power.